Solving logarithmic equations using logs only on one side. So unlike the last lesson where we had logs on both sides, this one is only going to have it on the right-hand side. And so let's look at, or on one side. So let's look at this problem. So we need to first combine to a single logarithm on the side that has logs. So the operation that separates them is addition. So when we combine those, we will use multiplication. Now we need to distribute. And log base 6 of x squared plus x. And what's different this time is we don't have the logarithm on the other side, so we can't set the meat of each logarithm equal to each other. We have to fish in order to get this one to work. So we're going to fish it around. 6 to the first is equal to x squared plus x. Because we have a square term, that means we have a quadratic equation here, we need to have it to where everything's on the same side. So 0 is equal to x squared plus x minus 6. To solve when you have a quadratic, that's when we factor or use quadratic formula. I'm going to factor and x squared and a negative 6. And so I'm looking for the two numbers that multiply to give me negative 6x squared that will combine to give me a 1x. And that's going to be a 3x and a negative 2x. When I factor my first row, I get an x that comes out of both. Second row is a 3, so that gives us that factor is x plus 3. On the second row, our first column is x, second column is negative 2. Now we're going to set each of those equal to 0, and so x is equal to negative 3. X minus 2 is equal to 0, x is equal to 2. When I go back and look at my logarithm, if I plug in the negative 3, I'm going to end up with extraneous. So that doesn't work. The only answer is going to be that x plus 2. I want you to try to work this next problem and check your answer. So we end up with x equals 1 and x equals negative 7. So we got to check it out and see. When we plug in that 1 to both, it checks out. When I plug in a negative 7, it gives me negative answer, so that's extraneous. So let's look at this next one. This one's being separated with a subtraction, so that means when we combine it, we're going to use division. So log base 4 of x plus 6 over 10 equals 1. We need to fish it to see what it is. 4 to the first is equal to x plus 6 over 10. So 4 to the first is equal to x plus 6 over 10. To simplify this, to get rid of this fraction, we need to multiply both sides by our denominator. And so our denominator is 10, so 10 over 1 is what I'm multiplying both sides by, which is the same thing as 10. So that gives me a 40 is equal to, these would cancel, x plus 6. Now I need to subtract my 6, and I get 34 is equal to x. And when I check that out, it will not give me a negative, so that works. I want you to try to do number 4 on your own. So this was separated with a subtraction sign, and so that meant you had to divide. When we fished it, we had 2 squared, which is 4. And then we multiply both sides by 6, and then divided both sides by 4. And so when we check it out, x equals 6. 6 is not going to cause it to be negative. So the other scenario you could end up with is you could end up where there is something on the side with a logarithm that's not a part of a logarithm. Then you need to move it first. So we have to get that logarithm isolated. So if there's something there that's not inside a logarithm, you got to get rid of it. Then we're going to fish. And we end up with 6 squared is equal to x minus 8. We add 8 to both sides. So 6 squared is 36 plus 8 is 44. And when I plug that in, it does not make it negative. So that's the answer. I want you to try to do number 6 on your own. So I need to move that 5 first, and then I fished, so 12 to the first is equal to n minus plus 10. We move the 10 over, and we get n is equal to 2.